Today on Doomed! Hey kids, do you wish you were doing the Mario in Afghanistan? Looking for the Chaos Emeralds with Sonic and Tails in Iraq? Well then, does the US Army have a proposition for you? Today on the show, political activist and one half of the Insurgents podcast, Jordan Yule, joins the show to discuss what he uncovered the US military doing on the video game live streaming platform Twitch, and the domino effect a bit of live chat trolling the army caused. Jordan, thank you so much. Well, first of all, let me pull you up on the show. 1 second. Jeez, I am exhausted because I really need to stop doing 2 shows on the same day, but I do it for the love of the sport. I don't know what I'm talking about. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Jordan, it is my pleasure to talk to you about this topic because it is incredible what just transpired over the last few weeks, all because you happened to find the U.S. military, the U.S. Army specifically, live streaming some video games on Twitch.
Yeah, to say the least. It's been quite the few weeks. Started as kind of curious trolling and ended with a congressional amendment being debated. So, yeah, I mean, we can go over the whole timeline and everything that got us to that point. But, I mean, the end result is now people are more aware. And if your viewers are not aware, they soon will be.
Yeah, you are a pro, by the way, at setting this up. Most people would have just gone right in without realizing that the audience does not know the very foundation of the story. But man, you could tell Jordan's a podcaster.
Yeah, well, if the mic didn't give it away, surely that's set up good.
So let me first ask you this before you step the story, because you appear to be a Twitch streamer. You are familiar with for me, and this audience knows this, and people whose Twitch channels I've gone on also know this, I am an old man when it comes to Twitch. I might as well be a boomer when it comes to Twitch. It is the one, I get TikTok even, and that's for Gen Z. Something about Twitch and all the different features and bits and all that stuff they do on there, a little bit confusing to me, but maybe eventually I'll get it. So you were familiar with the channel, with the platform, and you have your own channel on there, and you're like a video game streamer.
Yeah, I mean, small, modest audience. It's just kind of like a thing to do. Not something I center in my kind of career, but it's a fun hobby. It's a fun side project. I've got some buddies who I regularly stream with. We play through. Right. We've been playing through all the Halo campaigns. But yeah, familiar with the platform. Know kind of how it works.
Right. Buddies like Ninja and PewDiePie.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you've heard of them?
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about now this amazing story that, I mean, I still can't, it's still shocking to me just how quickly everything went down with this. I mean, just goes to show you that you get some young political activists like yourself in there doing the work, and then you combine that with a young congresswoman who's hip to the internet and what's going on there, and you get some real movement right in the halls of Congress. But I don't want to jump too far ahead. So let's get down to that fateful day where you decided to go on Twitch, and there was the U.S. Army doing some Let's Play gaming. Did you know they were on there? Did you know they were doing that, or did you just stumble upon it?
So I kind of knew that they were on it. So back in April, I saw on the banner of Twitch, I went on late one night and saw that the Army Esports team was prominently featured on the front page. It's that's really weird. Why do they have an esports team? And I asked a friend who kind of covers tech and tech culture. She was like, oh yeah, they've been doing this for a while now. That's odd. So didn't think much of it. And then that week when I can't even remember, it was mid-July. Your viewers probably saw this, but the Army Esports Twitter account was getting like widely mocked for tweeting uwu at some like video game brand or something.
And
And
what
that's
what
like,
is that? Yes, we should. Yes.
I don't know how best to describe it, but
Listen,
it's like, I
again,
don't know, it's
maybe
like
to
an
show.
anime thing,
Okay,
I think.
okay, so it's not even okay. Because again, to show my age, I mean, I get like elite gamer speak that was big during when I was playing Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, and all that fun early like RTS like stuff, and even
Yeah.
World of Warcraft type speak. I'm familiar with it. But then I guess the gaming world changed somewhere where during some time when I became a dad and didn't play so much video games anymore, and I thought maybe that was some sort of new gamer talk I was missing out on. But it's an anime thing, and I pay no attention to that, so it's all good.
Yeah, I don't know what you're even missing if you're missing anything. But it's something like that. But it's weird that the United States Army would be tweeting that because it's not. It's just weird,
Right.
and they got widely made fun of, and I was like, okay, this is funny. And then I saw videos of people getting banned from their Discord server for posting the war crime Wikipedia page, like the link of all the list of all the U.S. war crimes. So I saw again a couple of days later they were streaming on Twitch, and I went into the chat and I was like, "What's your favorite war crime?" But they had blocked the term war crime from being able, to it be like they've auto modded it, so you can't even
Right.
say that word. So I had to switch it to W4RCR1ME, and that went through, and then I posted the link. And this was while the guy on stream, who's a Green Beret, was talking about how people were making fun of the Uwu tweet. And he was like, I'm bigger than you, and all this stuff, and kind of like trying to flex. And he's like, I'm going to say Uwu on every stream just to flex on them, and all this kind of stuff. Then he sees the message, and he like reacts, and he's like, oh, nice. And bans me. Got mad, and that was, I thought it. I screen recorded it because I didn't know how they would react. And I thought it'd be curious to document. And I sent it to Rod Breslau, who goes by Slasher, who's like an esports guy. And he saw value, and he's like, you got to tweet this. And I didn't really care, didn't want to. So I said, you can. He did. It takes off. And then people started writing articles about it. Just that video. Like Vice wrote about it. I think Kotaku wrote about it. And a bunch of other like aggregator, like tech gaming blogs and sites wrote about it.
Hell, I even
That
wrote
was,
about it for Mashable. There you go. You
oh,
really,
yes.
yeah.
And that's when it signaled to me. It was like, okay, that's all right. Maybe there's something there. So talked to Ken Klippenstein, who folks might know, and said, do you think the nation would be interested in a piece about what they're doing? Because after I got banned, I started poking around. I noticed this is a recruiting effort, and they were using kind of insidious tactics, which we could talk about next. But he put me in touch with the nation, who then kind of helped me write this like reported take op-ed piece that led to everything else.
Right. The nation just happened to be looking for an esports writer.
Yeah, I want to flesh out the esports beat.
So it's I think let's go back just a little bit because I do want to get into all that, but I do think it's worth talking about the U.S. Army playing games on Twitch. Now I think people are familiar with the fact that the military does have professional sports teams, and I think there is some sort of I mean, if we want to talk about the necessities of that, that's another story completely, and I would welcome that conversation because it seems But yeah, so I think a lot of it is just a shock that like, oh, what are they doing playing games online? But esports is becoming a legitimate sort of competitive sport, I guess. Really, I mean, it's right there in the name, esports. But it is a bit odd that like there is a group of people who are in the military who are sitting around playing professional video games. Really, I mean, I don't know if they're a pro team and they play competitively, but they're professional in the fact that they're getting paid to play games by the military.
Yeah. So a lot of people did bring up the college sports thing. They're like, well, the Army and the Navy have football teams. It's like, well, how's that okay? How's that any different? And what those teams are like cadets at like the college equivalent for West Point and the Naval Academy. So that's like part of like the traditional collegiate experience. I mean, that's not a school I would go to,
Right.
but I mean, you could reasonably make the argument that, yeah, okay, that's basically a college, but for the military. Sure, they can compete in regular athletics. That's fine. What's different here is that's not where they're housed. They're housed in the recruiting command in their respective branches, and it is a recruiting effort. So I think it's important to just draw the, not to say that you weren't drawing that distinction, but people should understand that, like, yes, the Navy and the Army and all those branches have sports teams, but it's like at the college equivalent. It's like their respective academies for the branches. This is in the recruiting command by people who have been in the military for several years and are trying to make a career out of the military. And the purpose is to get new recruits.
Right. I mean that is a great. I'm glad you said that because that is a great point. I mean, you laid it out, but I guess in summary, one is like you said, like a bunch of military officers who are in college who are playing collegiate level sports, and the other is really just a marketing firm disguised as an esports league.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
I mean, they're not, as far as I can tell, they're not competing like any other esports team would compete. They're not in those tournaments. They just sponsor them.
right. Right, and again, I guess it would be the college thing is another big level. Like even if they were competing in esports, like what is the purpose there? It's not like it's a college experience for some young cadets or whatever. It's literally like would we let the military start their own NBA or NFL league team? You know what I mean? Like it's because then what would be the purpose of that? That's a professional. That's something completely different.
Right.
So let's talk about now this because this is some of this stuff is really shocking to me actually. I mean, we are now at the point where we have established that they're on there playing video games on a platform that I guess what would you put the age range of Twitch users? I mean, maybe the actual streamers skew a little bit older, but the viewers certainly range in age from very starting from very young.
Yeah, it's the youngest you can be. The youngest age, like the minimum age requirement for Twitch is 13. And from what I understand, like the biggest block on Twitch is 13 to 23-year-old males.
Right.
So I don't know how it breaks down among those demographics, but that's most of the Twitch user base. They boast they can reach 75% of adolescent boys in America. That's in their ad pitch, which is a lot. That's huge.
Lot. And to add to that, 13 is the minimum age legally, officially on Twitch. I can tell you, I mean, he uses one of his parents' accounts, but my 5-year-old, we pre-screen certain channels that we know he enjoys to make sure that they're kid-friendly. One particular channel he likes on YouTube is Zach Scott Games, where he usually plays like Mario and stuff like that, and the guy makes sure he doesn't curse. So it's a family-friendly show. But here he is, 5 years old, and he's watching that channel. So again, maybe the account is registered to someone minimum age 13 and older, but some of the people actually viewing it through that account could possibly be even younger.
I mean, I can't really report that out like in the Nation piece, so it's hard to draw that, like definitive, point. But yeah, like you said, like anecdotes from people who are younger and have kids, they'll tell you like young boys like that kind of stuff because they like Fortnite, they like Call of Duty, that kind of stuff. So I got a buddy, he's got a kid who's 10 and a kid who's 6, and they're both always on Twitch. There's nothing really stopping a kid from going that site. You don't have to have an account to go on it. Like you just have to have an account to chat.
Right. You have to have an account to say what's your favorite war crime.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to be 13 to troll. But yeah, it's like that's the thing. It's even younger than that. And yeah, that raises a huge red flag because the youngest age that technically you should be able to be recruited at is 16. This, I argue, is a violation of that understanding because they know that kids could, as young as 13, could be in there. I mean, as we talked about younger, but like they're promoting this on the front page, right? Or were up until all of this stuff kind of got published, but they were always on the front page.
They should put like a little thing in their Twitch profile that says, you can only view this if you're 16 plus. You know how like adult movie stars do on like their Twitter profile, and of course, no one under the
Yeah.
age of 18 ever looks at those Twitter profiles because they see it in the bio and they immediately go, "Oh, can't look at this."
Right. Yeah, but here's the thing. So the functionality on Twitch isn't like foolproof, but there's something there that's possible. Now, Bud Light recently had a sponsored stream featured on the front page. And this was kind of at the same time I was doing this, so I clicked it to see like what a clearly designed stream for adults would do. And they asked me my age. And I put in, I was like 15 to see what it would do, and it like blocked me. It was kind of annoying because I also wanted to see what they were streaming. And like no matter what I did, it like tracked my cookies and or something. I could not go back and watch that Bud Light stream. The military does not have that. It's like this on, I think one of the branches just says this broadcast is intended for mature audiences, and then you have a button to click OK. If you're a kid and you just want to click through, like you're going to do it. Right. So there's nothing really like, and they have the functionality, but they're not doing it. They could set it to 16, but they're not.
Right. And I should also make of note, just because we're talking about this, and I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. I think 16 is also way too young, but that's the legal age. I mean, I think if you're. I mean, to be honest, I don't think I was mature enough to make any sort of rational decision until at least my mid-20s, to be quite frank. And I know, sort of being serious too, and I think a lot of people probably feel, probably. I mean, you could stay under our healthcare system. You can stay under your parents' healthcare plan till 26. I mean, that's saying a lot too. I mean, happy they let you do that, but I mean, it sort of shows that, like, the age in which you're an actual adult in many ways is not so much the second you turn 18, and also it's a bit different for everybody. So,
yeah.
So let's. I know I said this about 20 minutes ago, but now let's go into some of these things they were doing to recruit people, because there's a lot more than just playing on a video game stream. And as nefarious as just them being on Twitch can seem, it actually gets a lot worse, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got distracted. I just saw Trump is going to ban TikTok, like a new news alert, and I'm trying to like think about how that would even work.
Wait, again? Again?
Yeah, like an executive order with a 45-day window for them to sell it or get banned, which is just like...
Oh, he's been talking about this forever, though, so I don't know if this is just him trying to take up some news time. You know what I mean? Like, just try to not have people talk about all the terrible Trump stuff there is to talk about it. But,
yeah.
Yeah, he said he's going to be doing this. I guess it's the official countdown now, though, with the signing of the executive order.
Yeah. The most important, like, pressing issue of our day is TikTok. So I'm glad he's tackling that.
Right. Yes. No pandemic, no economic, meltdown. No, everyone's doing great. Everyone's doing fantastic.
Right. Sorry, but your question was kind of where things went from there, from the trolling.
My setup was that it's even crazier what you uncovered than just the fact that the U.S. military is just on Twitch recruiting to begin with. Actually, the methods they're using to recruit are far more worrisome, even, if you ask me.
Yes. So the way that the Army specifically was recruiting was relying on kind of bait and switch tactics. And in the chat, if you've been on Twitch, you've probably seen something like Nightbot or Streamlabs bot, CloudBot, all these different types of things that are automated prompts in the chat that the streamer sets up, to plug maybe like their social media accounts or remind you that you can follow and or sub and get a free subscription with your Twitch Prime account, stuff like that. Well, the Army Esports team set theirs up to say you could win an Xbox Elite Series 2 controller. And if you're unfamiliar, that is a $200 controller with like extra bells and whistles that really skilled people will use. And if you like even compete or, play Fortnite like really sweaty, you want that controller. Average controller is like $50. So this is like quite the get, especially if you're a kid. But when you click that link, it does not take you to a contest entry form. It takes you to a recruiting form. And there's no mention again of how many winners there are, when the deadline is, like what you need to do to win, odds, all that kind of stuff that's like required for online sweepstakes. It's just a recruiting form. Additionally,
how much did you say this
oh, go ahead.
controller goes for again?
200, like $200.
Sign me up, baby. I'm headed to Iraq.
Yeah. That's a deal, man. Additionally, so on their esports Twitter account, they had another link that was in their bio that just, it was like goarmy.com/esports. And I checked today, this link is still active. I'm not encouraging your viewers to go sign up for the Army, but like if you are curious, you could still see it and how it was presented. goarmy.com/esports in the bio on the page for the esports team. Now, you click it, at the very top in all caps, it says register to win. And below it is a recruiting form. No mention of what you could win. Again, no details on what they could win or deadline, number of winners, nothing. It's just a recruiting form with register to win at the top. Now that is, if you are a kid and you think maybe there's like gaming stuff related to, like maybe a game or whatever. On the stream they had mentioned giveaways. And then in the chat they mentioned the controller thing. Very, very deceptive. Now, the youngest you could fill out that form, if you were born later in the year, like later in the year from when you're filling it out, you could be as young as 12 and still submit that form.
What?
And there's no clarity on what they were doing with that information. I gotta imagine they're holding on to it, but they wouldn't answer any questions about it.
12.
And there's a JR. Yep.
I'm just like letting that simmer for a minute because that's insane. That's what year are 12-year-olds born again? That's what 2000 2008 I think. Jesus. I was people born when I graduated from college can send in this
recruiting
form to ostensibly win a video game controller that apparently in a contest that doesn't even really exist. There's no controller being given away. Do we know that there? I mean,
they said there was, but there's no proof.
Right. I mean, again, not that matters, but I mean, again, not that the controller matters, but I think it would add an extra if there wasn't. There a little bit of an extra, like what the hell if the contest was even the contest was a lie. But that is stunning.
Yeah, it's deceptive. It's just so malicious, and they knew what they were doing. They got defensive once people like started talking about it, and Twitch, to their credit, the next day after the nation piece ran, they're like, oh no, you can't do that anymore. So they immediately shut down the giveaways, and the Army has said that going forward they'll comply, but we'll see.
Do you know how much Twitch forced them to do? Like it was Twitch's, like it wasn't like the U.S. Army decided because it was a bad press. Like Twitch basically said, do you know what like Twitch could just say we don't allow you to do that, or they can also put down the ultimatum where it's like, if you do that again, we will ban your account. Like, do you know what exactly went down, or they just came to some sort of mutual agreement to not do that anymore?
I think they were just told, like, you have to, if you want to do giveaways, you have to comply with like federal guidelines for that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I can't imagine that they would come close to banning them because the Army and the Navy are rumored to be spending like millions on promotion on this kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, it's Amazon's more profitable if the military is one of their, they're paying customers or they're paying advertisers. But just like, hey, you're violating the law, I think it's probably a conversation closer to that.
Right.
But the thing is, it wasn't like the Army was willingly like compliant and or like understood that this was deceptive, because like I said, that link is still in existence. The goarmy.com/esports link still says register to win at the top.
That is, so basically they're just not posting it out on Twitch anymore, but it still exists. So some young, kid can stumble across it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's promoted elsewhere. They took it out of their Twitter bio because we had pointed it out, but I'm sure they're promoting that link elsewhere.
Right. And now I just want to, you reminded me of this, and I think this interview happened after you discovered all this, but apparently a U.S. Army Major General Frank Muth, went on a online show, Think Tech Hawaii, and basically like defended, not even defended it so much because I don't think he really straight up answered any questions regarding what you uncovered, but it was clear from the timing and what they were talking about, him just trying to sell the military doing this. And he basically straight up comes out. I don't know if you've seen this interview, have you?
Is this the one where about tracking the IP address and sending him a message?
I don't know if that's what it was. I don't recall if that was in the here, but I have grabbed I grabbed these quotes because these were interesting to me. He says that esports is just an avenue to start a conversation. None of our players go in there saying, "I'm a recruiter, come join the army." It naturally devolves into a conversation. What do you do? Oh, I'm in the army. As if that sells it as something less nefarious. I mean, if anything, that actually sounds a little bit like I think it would actually be better if they just set up a tent that said U.S. Army recruitment, come play games while we try to send you overseas. I mean, I would prefer that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that kind of speaks to the whole like deceptive nature of this entire effort. So it's like, yeah, they're trying to posture as now, especially the Navy over the past week has really tried to pivot toward this outreach model. They're like, oh, no, we're not recruiters. And people are repeatedly asking them about their approach on Twitch. But there's documentation to show that they are recruiters. They have to go through recruiter training, and they're housed in the Navy Recruiting Command. And their objective is to get you to enlist. And still, they're like admitting all that on stream and like, yeah, but like, I'm a machinist. Well, yeah, you're a machinist in the recruiting command. Like that is your job. And it kind of, it just speaks to this like deceptive effort overall. If that's the kind of the position they want to take, I mean, go for it. But like, people see right through it, and they're just getting pummeled in the chat night after night.
Right. So what that's I want to continue to the next where the story takes us next, but you mentioned something about IP addresses, and I don't want to leave that hanging there. What?
Oh yeah.
What?
I can't remember who specifically said it, but it was a military official talking about esports and games being used as a recruiting tactic, and said something along the lines of like if you see someone performing really well in Call of Duty, they'll like send a message to that IP address. I can't remember the specifics of how they would do that. Be like, look, I'll tell your parents I'll give you like $100,000 for college right now if you come with us. But also like they're using this as like a ploy basically to be like, oh yeah, you could be on the esports team. Well, no, you can't. Like these are career military officials. Like you're not going to go in and enlist and be on the esports team. You're going to be a grunt. You're going to have to go through all the other stuff for years. Might get deployed, might die, might suffer PTSD and not be able to live your life like normally ever again. And they're just framing it as like, oh yeah, come try out. You can't do that. And they've really hidden that.
I'm now picturing like a young kid signing up for the military, going through all the training and all the grueling grunt work like you just mentioned, and his goal is to get on the esports team. It's like, first of all, there is no esports team. There's no esports team. It's a marketing tool. Like,
yeah.
It's you too could become a marketer and play video games while doing what the goal is, which is to get people to join the military. I mean, it's just like it's incredible.
Yeah.
So so Twitch tells the U.S. military they can't do what they're doing anymore with these giveaways and these other sketchy schemes. What happens next? So the military stops streaming for a bit, right? Didn't they take a break for a bit, or no? They kept on going.
The Army stops immediately. The Navy stops a couple days later. And as this is like moving through Congress, they're just radio silence. We haven't gotten there yet, but like, foreshadowing.
Right.
They're just like radio silent. They talk about the Army, comes out. The Army wants to just stop indefinitely. Like I said, the Navy goes a couple days later for a couple more days, but they're just getting pummeled in the chat, banning people left and right. It's a mess. And then eventually, as it heats up, they stop as well.
So at some point, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez comes across this. Now, do you know how she found out about this? Was it your writing in the Nation? Do you have a secret back channel? Are you good friends with AOC? How did
No,
this?
not good friends with her. I wish. I mean, she seems cool. But a friend of mine who runs a foreign policy group caught notice of the story and was like, "Oh, wow, that is remarkable. We should. It's like appropriation season for the Defense Department. Let's pitch them. Let's pitch some people on the Hill and see if anyone would introduce an amendment." So he had me write up a overview of the problem and what's at stake, and maybe some angles that people could tackle it from, and took it first try to AOC's office, and her policy guy was like, "Oh yeah, this is great." And the next day they had the amendment introduced.
That's crazy. Now AOC is a bit of a gamer herself, so maybe it was like one of those things that hits close to home. I know
Yeah.
she plays Animal Crossing. I don't know what else she plays. I'm assuming other games.
League of Legends, I think she also plays.
I remember that, right? That was one of the. I think that was the game where she like unveiled that she's like a legit gamer.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's awesome. But that's crazy how quickly this all went down. So from the moment you find that first stream to AOC introducing an amendment, how long is that?
Uh, like a week.
Jordan, we need you to somehow get involved with healthcare. We need you to somehow get involved with the prison industrial complex. We need you to somehow. Can you find angles to? Do we know if Rikers is streaming on on Twitch? Do you know?
Oh, that'd be so grim.
If Blue Cross Blue Shield is currently. What's another D Live? Is that one of those other streaming platforms? Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
God. I'll do what I can. I think it's also like it looks cool on paper. It's just a coincidence of timing because the appropriations bill was just moving through at the same time.
Is Sally Mae on BitChute?
Sally Mae has got to be like an MLM type marketer, right. Doing like what's that Vita cost?
Which is why I think BitChute might be the appropriate platform, or maybe Steam It. You know what I'm talking about? That random one.
I don't know Steam It.
Oh, okay. It's one of those random platforms that like hands out like crypto points for every like upvote your post gets, and I think they have like a streaming platform as well connected to it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well,
so what happens with the amendment?
So yeah, it's the first battle is getting it through the rules committee because you can't legislate in an appropriations bill. So it had to kind of fit a very, very narrow framework, and it had to only revolve around funding. So the proposal was cut funding for all esports related activities in the military, and esports and live streaming related recruitment efforts. So pretty limited. The original proposal also had all video games, which would have been really interesting, but it's like really tough to track because a lot of that's done through like consulting and like kind of like back channel, like, winks, nods, elbows to be like, hey, yeah, maybe rewrite this war crime and make Russia do it in the new Call of Duty. So really hard to track, and that felt more under the legislative category. But they got this proposal through, and the Rules Committee approved it, and made it in order, and that sent it to the floor. And this is where things got a little dicey. So we had originally expected it to be included in block, which is, the group amendments for huge bills like this, the group amendments in like 15 to 20, and then just pass via voice vote. They thought it would do that. They thought it would be included with a bunch of other kind of just random things. And then there'd be an up or down vote. Democratic leadership singled this one out and wanted this one voted on up or down. And when it came time to debate, so obviously AOC goes out and gives a speech in support. Republicans' turn. They give their time to the House Democrats chair for the Defense Subcommittee on Appropriations. So the Republicans basically just had a Democrat speak on their behalf to oppose it, and that's kind of when we knew it was like probably doomed.
Who
Um,
is that, by the way?
oh, Visklosky,
Okay.
Pete Visklosky, um, and
Oh, I want you.
that was
I
yeah.
want you naming names. By the way, I know you have a list. I've seen you tweeted it out. I
I
want.
do. I can pull it up while we're getting there. But yeah, that was when we kind of knew it was doomed. Then the CPC
Ooh,
came out
what
and
did
was
you just
like,
say? Nice tie-in.
yeah, of course, of course. The CPC came out and was like, you got to vote for this. So the Progressive Caucus, they were whipping in support, but then the Committee on Appropriations was like, no, they didn't give a recommendation, which basically signals to people like vote no. When it came down to it, it was 103 Democrats joining Republicans to kill it, and some of them were CPC members, and it just really shows that like this is the military-industrial complex is a hugely powerful and influential force, and people are really scared of it, especially scared of voting against it. And you know, there's cause for optimism in that like 120 some members voted for it, but yeah, not enough.
All right. So who are some of the standouts who voted against it? Because I think there were some disappointing names. I remember you sort of sharing out.
Tulsi was, I think, the one that was the funniest. Her politics kind of, I don't know what her politics are, but sometimes she's anti-war and anti-imperialism and fashions herself in that way. And she voted against it.
Yeah, not surprising. Not surprising.
Yeah, I mean, Ted Lieu, I think, was the funniest one because he's always trying to be like the woke posting congressman. Um, some of the others, like Sharice Davids, Abigail Spanberger, those are more like pro-military people, but like also try to also be progressive sometimes. Mike Levin from California tries to be progressive. But then the funny one was Max Rose from New York, and he represents Brooklyn and Staten Island, parts of Staten Island. And he gave a quote to the Post where he said, "This is like a limousine liberal amendment," and they think everyone who gets recruited into the military is just like some dumb, like fooled person. And from what I'm told, he made it clear to people that he thought the entire thing was about in-school recruiting and had no idea what he was actually voting on. So that was one of the more funny no's.
Incredible. These guys, I swear. I mean, it's pretty simple to I don't see how any rational person can not be against the fact that you don't have to be anti, the U.S. Imperial, you don't got to be against the U.S. Army or anything like that. You just say people at this age are too susceptible to, to being convinced to do things that they might not either A, want to do, or B, be cut out for. Like, it's just that simple. Like, there's not, it's actually very frustrating to hear people not quite get it, especially when you just mentioned how one congressperson, Max Rose, actually didn't get it, like literally did not understand what he was even doing.
Yeah. This, tech literacy is a problem in Congress in general. We see the advancements in technology and how that like leads to just members being confused, not really knowing how to tackle these problems. And like, it's leading to some pretty disastrous consequences. Like we're seeing just like conspiracy theories pop up everywhere, and we're seeing it spread like wildfire in different social networks. And the platforms aren't regulating themselves. Like, why would they? It's in their best interest financially to just keep people on their platforms as much as they can. So feed them what they want, even if it's like bad for them. And Congress doesn't really know what to do. Like we see that demonstrated in tech hearings all the time. So This was a huge problem in the vote. Like many of them didn't even know what Twitch was.
The funny thing is that, like, this actually isn't really even a tech issue in the same way that, like, when they have to deal with, how Facebook or Twitter or, yes, Twitch is a major component of this, but at the very basis, it's not about how an algorithm works. It's not about how a company is carrying out policy, because the problem in this scenario wasn't really technically Twitch. The issue here was, does the U.S. military... Do we want the U.S. military using resources where they can reach out to people, to kids as young as 12, 13 years old, to try to recruit them. I mean, the tech tie-in really is just like an added thing in this case. It's, it seems like a pretty simple thing to understand, even if you don't get the tech side of the conversation.
Yeah, well, people like opponents to this, and like people who are defending what the military is doing, really tried to exploit that ignorance though and frame this as advertising. And basically, a lot of members thought that, well, they're just advertising here like they would advertise in a magazine or on TV. This is just where audiences are. And the military really tried to hammer that home. What is left out of that is the dynamic that happens on Twitch, which is unique really to that platform. And that's where I think it's key to understanding what Twitch is. And if your viewers have been on it or used it, they know, like, the interaction between the person on stream and the chat and the viewership is really unique. You're not really going to find that in a Facebook stream. It just comments on Facebook live streams are just at the stream. Very rarely do you ever see people interacting with it. And it's just like kind of like a toxic like cesspool. On Twitch, they interact with you and you develop these back and forths, and there's like this kind of parasocial relationship. And you probably know him, but Hassan Piker, who left Young Turks, now does that full time. And he was quoted in the story saying, like, it could be alarming, like, because people convince themselves that you're their friend because they're talking to you in the chat for hours on end, night after night. And that's what the military is doing, and people really didn't get that. And like, that's easily exploitable if you want something and if you are in that position, in the streamer's position, and they do. They want you to enlist. So I think that's like super alarming, and I wish more people would understood that.
Right. No, that's it's a great point. And again, I'm just going to reiterate because I think it's something that a lot of people, including myself, off the bat, really didn't think of. If the military was to run an ad on Twitch, what do they get? 10, 15 seconds for an ad to run, and it's, professionally produced, and it's trying to sell you something in terms of, go to army.com or whatever their website is, etc. But with this, and you lay it out, you have people watching these streamers for hours on end, interacting with them, and I mean, and they feel like they know the person. I mean, I sort of get it too, because doing a live stream show, not with a audience as large as others, but there's people in my stream who I talk to, and they talk to me as if we're friends. And yeah, I get it, because we're in here for this particular show once a week for anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, sometimes even more, and we're hanging out, and that's what you do with friends. So yeah. The only difference is I'm not telling my audience to join the military and put their lives on the line. I'm only telling them to go to patreon.com/mattbinder and sign up.
Which is even worse than the military.
Yes, no. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's just like, but you're not exploiting it. Hassan is really careful about not exploiting it. He's had people like show up at his house and stuff. He's had to move multiple times. Like, people can get really attached, and that's worrisome. The military is not going to be as mindful as you are with the chat. They're going to exploit that because the goal is to get people to enlist. That's really troublesome.
What we need to get those people who showed up at Hassan's to become fans of the military's Twitch stream, and then we could have these people show up outside of these military bases, freaking the hell out of the military, and then maybe they'll just stop streaming altogether.
There we go. That could be one way to end it.
So what are the next? Are there next steps? I guess is the real question. Is the amendment sort of kaput for now, or what are we looking at now in terms of, I didn't even ask you. I know the answer, but for the audience, is the military back on Twitch streaming?
Yeah. So the Navy resumed this past weekend. They're just now full steam ahead, and like we mentioned earlier, it's we're not recruiting, we're doing outreach. It's lies about their purpose. They're trying to like kind of shift away from the explicit recruiting and now into like, hey, fellow kids, like, how do you like video games type stuff. They've also the Army has also said that they're going to resume streaming soon. They just said in the near future. They didn't say when. And now we're hearing that the Air Force and the Marines. I think this was kind of probably a top-down thing where it's like you need, because a lot of people, some of the messaging in support of the AOC amendment was pointing to the Marines who in the past, especially when the story broke, said esports wasn't for them because it gamified war and they felt that was irresponsible. And not that I'm going to champion the Marines as like a do-gooder, but I thought that was notable. Now they're not. Now they're getting into it. I think this is to kind of just to spread the blame, and it makes it harder to use one branch's stance against the other. So now the Air Force and the Marines are getting into it. I think they feel emboldened. And I wanted to point out, going back to just the overall debate around, like you said, it wasn't a tech issue. It was more about recruiting kids. You're right. It absolutely was. And I do think it was important that people understood that. And I don't think they did. But now they're going to try to make it younger. Like, it's just the nature of reactionary politics, and especially right-wing reactionary politics. I had people on Twitter trying to, like, prominent, not that they're like respected, but like Baseball Crank, who people probably know of, was arguing in my mentions on Twitter that, like, yeah, sure, military recruiters should be able to go into kindergarten classes. It's a job. It just go in for career day like firefighters go in. And it's like, that's horrifying. But kindergartners should not be recruited for the military.
But you know what? When firefighters go in for career day, they're just like explaining what the people you see in your everyday life are doing. They don't go in with a form so your 2-year-old or 3-year-old can sign up and go fight fires as soon as they can. It's just like, hey, I'm a firefighter. You see me around town. No need to worry about me. I'm here making sure, the cat in the tree can get down. And, and if there's a fire in your neighbor's house, I'll put it out, make sure everyone's okay. Like, they're not actively recruiting people to join the FDNY, or if you're here in New York or, whatever. Yep. That's ludicrous. It's not the same at all.
Right. And yeah, there's just like there's big differences between like the impact of being a firefighter or any other job that would come to your class for career day than the military.
Do the military branches play games specific to each? Is that even the proper term, military branch? Do they each do they play games specific to their military branch? Like, for example, if the Air Force was only playing Star Fox, I think I would actually probably watch that. Like if
there's more recent flying games, but yeah, again, you're kind of dating your.
Excuse me. You're gonna do a barrel roll and you're gonna like it, buddy. Okay.
Well, okay. All right. If they're playing through Star Fox 64, I would watch probably once. But yeah, no, not necessarily. I mean, like, the Air Force really isn't streaming a lot yet, but they do have a Minecraft server, which is really weird. Which that's a game that appeals to young people.
It's a game I don't get at all. Another one of those things where I guess I'm aging.
It's just like, yeah, it's a lot, and like the build. I guess it's like Legos. Kind of. If you look at it like Legos, it might make more sense. But
I hate those too, so I guess it makes sense.
You stepped on enough as a dad, you're done. Yeah, but it's they don't necessarily play like branch specific games. It's mostly shooters though.
Of course,
it's a lot of Call of Duty. It's a lot of Escape from Tarkov. It's a lot of Valorant, Apex Legends. Those are the big ones, but it's mostly Call of Duty Warzone, which I thought was really interesting. Because it so closely resembles actual armed conflict without any of the pitfalls. It gives you the ability to commit war crimes as a kill streak using white phosphorus. And it is a franchise that has been known to work with the military and allow them to help shape the content. And this most recent iteration, the one that they play often, is like literally like a revisionist history. They said like the Highway of Death was committed by the Russians. So no, it wasn't. So it's so weird that of all the games, I think that one stands out as the most like just gnarly.
It is interesting, and I'm glad I made that joke because I wasn't expecting you to have a good answer for it. But that's really interesting. It didn't occur to me that they actually were. Now, do they just play games that are like shooters that are realistic, like Call of Duty? Are the other games you mentioned, which I don't know at all except for Call of Duty, are they like they don't play like sci-fi type shooters or anything like that? These are all like sort of realistic ones.
No, they play sci-fi ones,
Okay.
or like kind of more comical ones. Like Valorant is a bit more comical and sci-fi. Apex Legends is especially, but Escape from Tarkov is another one that's really popular on the Navy stream. That is more realistic.
Well, they have the Space Force now, so they need to get people ready for that.
Yeah, maybe they'll drop that with the new Halo.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's it's I don't know. It's just weird. The Call of Duty one is really weird because it really speaks to the danger with our consumption habits, especially of military propaganda like agitprop. So you might go see Saving Private Ryan or watch Saving Private Ryan at home once, see it on TV. Okay, that's it. You might go see American Sniper once in the theater. Maybe there's a recruiter in the lobby and you're like, oh, okay, interesting, whatever. And that's it. And then you might play Call of Duty a little bit more regularly, but that's, you're just consuming. Here you are watching this. If you are a regular viewer, night after night, hours on end, with a recruiter while they're playing this game that is designed to appeal to you and has been, shaped with military recruitment in mind. And, follows a long legacy of agitprop, like recruiting elements in military video games. And just the consumption habits are so different. Like you're not going to watch American Sniper every single night over and over again, Like it's so kind of a one-off, one-way consumption.
Oh wait,
like
you're not supposed to do
pattern.
that.
I mean, you might need to be on a watch list if you do.
Right.
But yeah, it's like you're not gonna watch the same movies over and over again.
Right.
But here you are like hanging out if you're a regular viewer, hours on end, day after day, and that is just a totally different style of consumption of propaganda.
Right. If you see me riding dragons anytime soon, it's because if there's nothing on TV to watch, we throw on an episode of Game of Thrones. That's like a nightly. That's like a nightly thing here.
I'll keep an eye out.
And
Dragons
the night, and this is almost every night. The night undoubtedly ends with me complaining about how bad the last season was every single night.
The reaction. So I never watched it, but the reactions to the last season kind of justified and solidified my opinions, and I felt justified in never watching because it just seemed like people were really disappointed.
We'll talk about this more. You're going to join me for the second half of the show, which we're about to go into, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So we'll talk about that then and there. So let's wrap this up with this because I think I got you off on a different tangent here. So what is the future hold for this? Is it just is what it is now, and they would just have to re-go through the process if someone wants to bring it up again, or is it sort of kaput?
Oh, we never even talked about the lawsuit.
Well, let's do this.
The First Amendment components.
Oh my god.
Potential lawsuit, but yeah.
Against you?
No, against the military.
Okay.
On behalf of the plane.
I'm about to say, what was going on there?
No. So they, because they blocked me, both the Army and the Navy, the Knight First Amendment Center at Columbia University wrote a letter, demand letter to both branches, and was like, you can't do this. It's unconstitutional.
Right.
You need to unblock him, and you also need to lay out what your guidelines are that comply with the First Amendment. You can't mute people or block people on the basis of their viewpoint. And they had until yesterday to respond. I'm still blocked by both. The Army said they will unblock me, but they haven't met the deadline, and they didn't specify when. And I think that was mostly just to placate the attorney. So now we're reviewing our options going forward. But yeah, I'm still blocked, and that is, that violates my First Amendment rights along with everyone else who's blocked their rights. And you should be able to, because especially in recruiting, you have a constitutional right to counter recruit in the same space. So you are allowed to do that, and you're allowed to go in. It doesn't have to be nice, doesn't have to be polite. You can do it however you want. The government cannot ban you on the basis of viewpoint.
That is really interesting. It didn't even occur to me that even in the online space they would have to. Right. Wow.
I think this is kind of a new frontier in speech cases, but we need to start thinking about this, and thankfully First Amendment scholars are, because as speech becomes more digital and the interaction that we have with the government becomes more digitized, we need the same protections that we would have if we were standing outside City Hall.
Right. I mean, it's interesting because, when a number of Twitter users got blocked by Trump, and that was the First Amendment issue, to me that was almost sort of like, oh, well, obviously you can't block these Twitter users for replying to him in a tweet. but something about like the nature of like live streaming and like the live chat, I guess, because of how like I don't know, just like how quick and just like it's just like there and just shoots right by. I guess it didn't even occur to me that like you need to let them talk shit if you're if you're a government agency or a branch of government. You can't just block people if you're just because you don't like what they're saying to you on your own on your account on a platform.
Right. Yeah. They seem to think that they're just like regular users. And like the funny thing, I think it was like the Army put out a user agreement. It's like you can't like that doesn't you're not a company. They're just trying to operate like any other private industry or private person. It's like you are just held to a completely different set of rules.
Right.
One of the funny ones, I can't remember which branch, but one of them originally had a rule that was like you're not allowed to say anything that's designed to elicit a reaction from the streamer. Yes, you are. Like what? That's so restrictive. That rule is gone, but that one was really comical.
I just would like to let my live stream watchers know that you're not allowed to say anything in the live chat that will get any reaction from me. The point of this is to be as dull and dry as possible. I mean, what's the point then? You just want people in there they just want people in there going like, "Ha, yeah, you blew their head off. Yeah, bang bang." Like, like I don't understand like what else you're going to get in there if you don't think what doesn't elicit a reaction. That's just bizarre.
Right. Yeah, they want game chat. They want stuff like that. They want like flattering commentary about the military. People coming in like, "Oh, I'm stationed here. Love it. Thanks for doing this. Thank you for your service." Kind of that hoorah bullshit. But like they're just used to being treated like gods everywhere. Like going to NASCAR races for decades and just being like worshipped. And now they're coming to a place where people don't want them with a generation who's seen nothing but just like military failures around the world for like their entire lives. And they expect it to be treated the same. Like it's not going to work.
Right. Right. Yeah. Jordan, this was incredible. Please keep me up to date with what's going on. If anything else comes, something will happen. This isn't the end of this. I'm sure this is going to be a long journey, and eventually you're going to be back on this show with special guest Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and the two of you are going to run down how you stopped the U.S. military from streaming on Twitch and recruiting on there. And I, by then, hopefully, will have maybe somewhere around 50,000 Patreons and be making absolute bank. And you guys can come to my mansion and we could do this live, like a live in-person interview.
All right. Sounds good.
That's my... So Jordan's going to join us now in the second half of the show, and we'll take some super chat questions, and we will... talk about other things in the news. I really appreciate you sticking around, Jordan. If you'd like, I will just do some quick plugs and everything. Oh, let me plug your stuff. Where can people find you and name drop everything that you do that you want to promote, buddy?
The podcast that Rob Rousseau and I do is called The Insurgents. We're on all the podcasting platforms. Matt has been on the show.
Right, that's a great episode, by the way. One of my favorites.
Yeah. That was the episode in the middle of the show. That clip emerged, if you remember, of the guy in Buffalo getting shoved by the cop. Remember, we were kind of like paused while we were recording because we all saw it going around on Twitter.
I remember that.
Chilling clip. But yeah, that's the podcast I host. And then as mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm on Twitch. Really_chill_guy. It's my Twitch name because I never thought I would stream and just kind of saw it as a joke. But that's my name. Sorry, I'm not changing it. Underscores are staying.
I like it, man. It's all about the underscores. Nothing is easier to remember.
It's so bad, and like Hassan will give me shit, and he's got a running joke on his stream that it's the worst username on Twitch. But now I'm just like I'm dead set on keeping it now. The fact that it bothers people, I have to keep it now.
You have to, absolutely. And it's the name you use to mess with the army. So how can you ever give it away, right? I mean,
I know that's the weird part. He like says it too. It sounds so funny.
So Jordan, if you want to go grab a drink or anything you need to stretch or anything as we transition to the second half, feel free to do so now. I'm just going to do some quick plugs and be back live in a minute. Folks, you can support this show by going to patreon.com/mattbinder. It helps grow this program. You get the audio version of the second half of the show in your Patreon feed. Everyone gets the free half of the podcast at doomedpod.com or on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you listen to podcasts. On Twitter at Matt Binder, on Instagram at Matt Binder. Anywhere there's a social media platform, I'm on there either as at Matt Binder or you just search Matt Binder and I'll come up. I was on, I didn't even realize earlier in the program when I first started, I said I was tired from doing 2 shows today. I once again co-hosted the Majority Report Thursdays with Jamie Peck, Matt Leck, and Brendan Finn of the Majority Report crew. It was another great show, in my opinion. I had lots of fun doing it, as always, with those guys and gal. And we'll be doing it again in the coming... we'll be doing it next week. But be sure to go to Sam's Majority Report website and YouTube channel and catch that episode. What else? How else can you support the show? Oh, Super Chats. Here we go. Don't forget to do this. If you want to ask me and Jordan a question, taking Super Chats right here in the live stream chat. And if you're not already subscribed, youtube.com/MattBinder. Also, I guess if there's any episodes, remember to drop this. Twitch.tv/MattBinder. Subscribe to the Twitch channel too. Even though I have no idea what I'm doing on there. But this is streaming on there right now. I do the multi-stream thing. Well, anyway, going into the second half with Jordan. Other than that, see you guys all next time on Doomed. We're back. What's up, everybody? Thank you patrons for helping keep the show going, and thank you to Jordan for joining us for this second half of the show.
Oh, of course. Happy to be here. Thanks, Matt.
So Jordan, let's talk about some things that have been going on in the news really quick, and then we'll get to some YouTube live stream comments. First of all, what is your take on how this past Tuesday's primaries went? Sounds like it was a pretty good day for progressives.
Yeah, I think this was really exciting. I mean, Rashida Tlaib won by like a 2-1 margin. Just absolute landslide there, and her opponent was backed by like Dan Gilbert and people at Quicken who, and if you are familiar with how Detroit operates, Dan Gilbert basically runs everything. So that like kind of like the overseer of Detroit, his hand-picked candidate couldn't beat Rashida Tlaib really shows that like people in that area and that community want her progressive vision, because her opponent, Brenda Jones, was objectively much more centrist, more moderate, and, backed by corporate interests. So yeah, that was huge. Biggest, I think, win of the night was Cori Bush defeating Lacey Clay. Closer margin there, but really showing that people are tired of the old guard in St. Louis as well. So really, really exciting. And then, yeah, Medicaid expansion in Missouri. Those were big wins.
Never thought I'd be happy about a Bush winning an election.
right. She's so cool too. I'm excited to see her in Congress.
We were talking earlier on the Majority Report this afternoon about how we played a clip where she was discussing UBI during the pandemic, giving everyone $2,000 a month. But then she specifically mentioned, and I maybe there's been a progressive congressperson who's said it. I haven't heard it. This is something I usually just hear in leftist circles, on live streams or on Twitter or in articles. She mentions UBI, but without taking from the social safety net to fund UBI, which, I mean, we've been talking about UBI for the past year and a half thanks to Andrew Yang, which, props to him for putting it out there in the forefront. But gotta scale back that props a bit, because when Andrew Yang and the Yang Gang talk about UBI, which in turn has become the default for what everyone talks about when they talk about UBI, it's a UBI that says if you are on certain social safety net programs like food stamps, you can also get that if you get UBI, which is basically saying, we want to reform those welfare programs. We want to eventually do away with those welfare programs to basically fund UBI, which, again, so awesome to hear Cori Bush specifically call out the exact type of UBI that progressives should want to see.
Yeah, I think there's just like you said, too many people just assumed, or just understood UBI to be the one that Yang laid out. Not in, I mean, even less than that. I can't imagine people are like really poring over the details of his UBI proposal. People vote so many people vote just based on like their last minute decision, don't really look into anything. And it's all about like who they like on camera and stuff like that. But like of the people who did look into it or had even a cursory like glance at it, didn't quite, for some people, didn't understand that there were other different types of funding mechanisms for UBI, and it wasn't just, the value added tax and cutting Social Security programs. So yes, great to see a true progressive champion an equitable UBI. That's fantastic.
Now, you mentioned Rashida Tlaib winning her election. I just want to her re-election. I just want to bring up the media's sort of portrayal of that race, which was really crazy to watch when she won, because I went into the election on Tuesday. In the sense that following the election on Tuesday, I went into Tuesday thinking, oh man, this might be a nail biter. The way the media has been talking about how Rashida is the most vulnerable of the squad and how she could possibly lose. I believe they even said, one news outlet, their headline was Rashida Tlaib in the fight for her life, for her political life, or something like that. And then she wins something like 60 to 30% or something like that. And the HuffPost, their article was Rashida Tlaib survives her challenge. And it's like, what? Are you guys like trying to save face for sort of, putting up that story in a way that would, I guess, would in old school terms you would have said would sell papers? Yeah. But like, why continue to do that after it became clear that she wasn't in the fight of her life? She didn't survive. She apparently, I'm glad she did the work because that's who she is and that's why we like her. But it seems like she possibly could have just sat back and won that election. There was no fight for her life. She handily was victorious.
Yeah, she, like I said, 2-1 margin blew her opponent out of the water, and that's someone who was backed by huge like corporate interests in Detroit. So yeah, it was. I can't imagine why. There's like malice toward her, and people are unfair to her and Ilhan Omar, especially. But the squad in general never really gets a fair shake. But I am surprised that the Huffington Post ran that because they're a little bit more liberal than some outlets. Maybe, if I just, maybe it's because that she had lost to Brenda Jones originally. So when Conyers died, did he die or did he resign? When they were filling...
It's possibly both, actually.
I think it was... Yeah, I can't remember.
He definitely resigned first, but I think...
Did he also then die?
I think so.
Well, they were filling his seat, and it was the election.
He did. He resigned, which is why they needed to fill it. But then he died in October of last year.
Okay, that's it. So when he resigned for he had that scandal where he was like flying his like mistress on the government dime. She beat Tlaib originally to fill the remainder of his term, which was a few months until Inauguration Day. But for some reason, they voted for Brenda Jones to fill that term, but then elected Rashida Tlaib for the full term. So that's always kind of worried people who have like worked in support of her campaign at Progressive Wars, or people who just work in progressive politics. It's like, well, she technically has beaten Tlaib before, so there might have been an element of that. Um, but I mean, polling never really showed that it was very close. I think that it's just like people don't give her a fair shake, and they just like love to drum up that kind of controversy around people like her and Omar to maybe not selling papers, but to get clicks.
She literally served for about a month in office after beating Rashida, only for Rashida to replace her in January. Like, she took office literally the last days of November, and
Yeah,
then Rashida Tlaib went ahead and filled the seat in early January.
isn't that nuts? And the election happened at the same time, the same
Right,
ballot.
right. Maybe people were just like, we like Brenda Jones, so let's give her the ability to say that she's a former U.S. rep, but we don't want to live with her as rep, as our congressperson, so let's make sure it's as short as possible.
Isn't that nuts?
It's really weird. I wonder how that even happened in terms of what was going through people's minds, what the electorate looked like for each of those elections that happened on the same day. Like, I'm dying to know how that occurred. That's
I need to
crazy.
see the ballot or something. Maybe it's like a layout of the ballot where like one was like first on one category and one was first on the second one or something like that, or split by pages. Who knows? I'm just like, that has puzzled me literally since election night in 2018.
Right.
I just never understood it.
Right. I mean, it also the power of the incumbency too. I'm not saying that's all why Rashida won, obviously, but I mean, to win at that level when compared to how it previously went, the it's a powerful thing to be the incumbent.
Yeah, totally.
It's
Yeah,
weird.
and now
It's
she's
weird
got
how the electorate looks at it that way. In terms of like, yeah, we're just gonna. Even though we weren't sold last time, she's in the position now, so let's keep it that way. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
name recognition helps. She's done a lot for the community.
Right.
She's just
And
yeah,
I'm just trying to
just
make it clear. I'm not
dedicated.
talking about her specifically. In fact, she's probably my favorite congressperson. I think she's great. I'm just talking about in general how the incumbent has this bizarre advantage to the electorate, and it's more so me questioning what goes through the mind of the average voter than anything to do with the person who's actually in the office.
Right. Yeah. The power of the incumbent voting power is nuts. But that's why wins like Cori Bush's are so huge, because that's a political dynasty in that area that she just completely upended with very little progressive organizational support. Like outside of Justice Dems, very few groups got in that race. So she did that all on her own. So credit to her.
Right, right. Also, being that you mentioned that, another interesting thing though is that it seems like when incumbents do lose, it's after they've been in office for a pretty long while, actually. Like something like anywhere from like 15, 20 years minimum, and then that's when the electorate says to themselves, their constituents start saying, all right, we've given you a chance. Like, giving you a chance, you give them 20 years. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if like I don't honestly, to me, like 2-3 terms if you want to give someone a chance. If they're not pulling it off then you give them the boot. You know what I mean? If they're not delivering for you then it's time to say goodbye. 20 years, my God, for some of these incumbents.
Yep. Yeah, and I think in most cases it's like, yeah, good to get out, but in like the Markey Kennedy race, it's like, yeah, incumbent all the way. Like he's clearly the better option
Oh,
there.
right,
So
because there's an example of an incumbent who's delivered.
yep. He introduced the Green New Deal. He's pretty solid progressive, and Kennedy's running to his right. There's no real reason that he needs to primary him.
Also, Kennedy is not some sort of upstart young politician trying like no name. Like, you have a Kennedy running for this seat. Like, that's ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
do you have any inclination about how that race is going to go, or you have no clue?
I think it's really coming around Markey. It's been a rough couple of weeks for Kennedy. Um, I don't lean too heavily on betting markets, but like but that is all the money's going toward Markey now. Uh, Huge swing in the polls, like big 20-point swing for Markey over the past like month. And Kennedy's getting clobbered. Like he looked like a kind of a fool in the debate, saying that like Sunrise Movement only endorses incumbents, which that's not true. Sunrise Movement called him out for that. He
Wait, he
tries to
said he said Sunrise Movement only endorses incumbents.
Yeah, which they like their candidate slate in 2018 was like the Squad and Randy Bryce and a bunch of like outside challengers. They kind of laughed off the notion when he said that because it's like you have to be like incredible for us to endorse you, and that's why we're only endorsing Markey. In addition to like the Squad people. Um, yeah, it's just he's just trying to like distort the facts, and he looks just kind of slimy in the process.
So Zoe on the live chat, I gotta read this one because it's important that I do. Marky, pretty sure it's pronounced Maki.
That is important. That's very important. Um, so we'll say it properly going forward.
Right, right. So what has happened to Kennedy actually? I was following this race, and then a number of different things happened, and I sort of fell out of paying too much attention to it, and sort of does feel that way. Where when I was paying attention, I was like, oh, this is not looking good, and all of a sudden everyone's telling me Kennedy seems to be blowing it. What was the turnaround? What happened?
I don't know if it was just kind of one thing, but overall seemed to be like increased national interest, and then people started picking apart like Kennedy's record and statements and stuff like that, and it just like the endorsements help Markey, but also everyone just kind of realizing like, yeah, there's no real reason for him to challenge Markey. It's it just seems clear cut to most progressives. Markey's got a vibrant young campaign, interesting social structure and apparatus. People are really fired up about him. Kennedy just can't replicate that. He's got just kind of old guard DCCC style politics that just, not really going to fire up people when you have to, when in these types of races, you have to motivate people. And what's he going to do? Like his environmental policy is just absolutely fraudulent. He tries to call himself an original co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. What? So are so many other people, but it's not like, but saying that against like,
Against Markey, yeah.
It's just so weird. But then also you look at it's like his stock holdings. Sludge reported that like up to 1.5 million of his stock holdings were in like Chevron and Shell and Marathon, like oil and gas companies. And then once they reported it, he quietly sold them and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm taking the no fossil fuel money pledge." It's just like, dude, you are such a fraud. But yeah, it just shows like he really doesn't stand for anything. It's all about like continuing that political dynasty.
Right, right. I'm just coming across this now, and I think we should have maybe stopped when we got that TikTok news from Trump and took in the full details of the executive order he signed. Are you are you aware of what else is in this executive order?
Is it WeChat?
Okay, Trump. This is from what I'm reading. I think you're buddies with this guy at Slasher on Twitter. Yeah. Trump's executive order prohibits transactions with TikTok and WeChat parent companies, ByteDance, and Tencent. Now, Tencent apparently owns ownership stakes in Riot Games, Epic Games, Blizzard, Ubisoft, and a number of other gaming companies, which means... Yeah, the video game industry is going to get wrapped up in this and need to apparently figure out how they're going to get rid of a parent company that owns anywhere from 40% to 100% of their company in the next 45 days.
Whoops. Well, that seems like really illegal and unfeasible, but we'll see. In a society where, no one's really holding his feet to the fire in terms of accountability, it seems like he could do whatever he gets away with.
So basically, some of these games that are going to be affected, what is it? League of Legends, Fortnite. Wait, is Discord wrapped up in this too? What is Discord's connection to this? Oh, wow. Tencent has a stake in Reddit, Discord. Jeez.
Yeah. Yikes. This is such a mess. Activision, Blizzard, Ubisoft, Epic and Riot and Activision are huge. And Ubisoft, those are like four of like probably the 6 or 7 biggest game publishers. That's enormous.
Well, I think we should say at this point, Congratulations to the 4chan gamers who memed Trump into the presidency. Good job,
Oh
guys.
yeah,
Good
yeah, awesome.
job.
You got what you wanted.
Good job. Yeah. Congrats to all the Gamergate reactionaries who memed Trump into existence, who thought he was their, what was it that they used to call him? Their emperor god or sun god or some shit like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Congrats to all the right wingers who love calling liberals non-playable characters, NPCs, because you love games so much and Trump is your hero. Congrats, guys. I hope you guys are feeling good. I hope you're proud of yourself. Good job. Fucking
Um,
idiots.
I thought about that a lot when we had the big net neutrality fight a couple years ago, and it's like this is a community that I would, I'm sure it's safe to assume most of them were very passionate about like SOPA and PIPA back in like what 2011, 2012, and the net neutrality fight then, which big internet companies fought back against. Remember that going everywhere, everyone went dark for a day. Like Reddit was dark for a day, and it was huge, and
Right.
everyone kind of fought back against net neutrality or the attempts at net neutrality. And now Trump comes into office and just gives them the finger and does it anyway. So I just think about, yeah, it's funny to see how the people who organized on those spaces that a few years ago were vehemently opposed to this concept, electing the guy who ends up bringing it about. I mean, we'll see what it looks like in actual practice, but like, not great that he's welcome to it.
This is, pretty crazy actually, and I wonder what is going to transpire. I mean, 45 days. You think that someone in the Trump administration is gonna realize this isn't good for him and suddenly pull back? I mean, it's one thing to go after TikTok; it's another thing to go after like seemingly an entire industry. I mean, this is major gaming publishers.
Yeah, this is huge. I'm curious to see. Like I said, I can't imagine this is gonna happen.
Right.
But I think it's just kind of like a tough guy tactic to get them to back down and sell off a portion of TikTok to Microsoft.
I gotta tweet this out because what I just told you about my congratulations to all these assholes. Man, this is incredible. I love it. I love it. I hope Trump bans gaming. Oh boy. Um. So let's move on now. Let's talk. Let me actually read some super chats. We got a few
Sure.
here. We got some questions actually. I don't know how. This is from Renee. Uh, any threats, Jordan, or just from Central underscore committee? Central underscore committee. You familiar with that's a Twitch streamer, right? Right.
That's Mike. Yeah, Mike from PA. Is this about Call of
Oh,
Duty?
that's Mike from PA. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Is that what he's? The question was any threats?
Any threats?
Or
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I don't like to, I only recently started talking about getting swatted back in like 2014, and just that's how it's like fucked me up for a while. So I don't like to like talk in specifics about stuff, but yeah, it's been not great because I don't want to encourage copycats. But yeah, I'm happy to talk offline with Mike or whomever if you're curious. But
I
like,
actually
it's
have
not
no idea what
been,
you're talking about.
what part? Getting threats?
You guys get threats?
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting a lot of threats recently over the military stuff.
Really?
Yep.
Through Twitch specific? I mean, like, yeah, I think everyone who does this stuff gets threats and shit. But I mean, specific to the Twitch, interesting. I would think like your stuff on, you have. I don't know if anyone's aware of this. I'm assuming if you know who Jordan is, you are. Jordan's probably one of like the most followed, progressives on Twitter. How many followers you have? Like 260,000 or something like that.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Hey, don't be so modest. Oh, I'm sorry. Only 243,000. My bad.
Um, uh, yeah, it's I mean, yeah, sometimes stuff comes through from like space tweets and stuff, but like huge uptick recently. Ba- since this has been not great.
Really? So who's going after you? Like like army guys? Like
Yeah, a lot of vets, a lot of like military personnel, just sending me like just screed on Facebook messages and shit like that. One night I had a bunch of my stuff, like people were trying to get my password for stuff. Just not fun.
for me, the interestingly enough, it also has to do with gaming. The worst I ever got from it was when I was covering Gamergate at the Majority Report.
Oh, dude.
That
Uh,
was there is something about the video game world that just and this is not an anti-gaming rant. This is just a truthful matter. There is something about the video game world that just brings out the worst in people in terms of they just feel like they have the authority or the right to just ruin people who do something they don't approve of or agree with.
yeah.
I mean, it's something that I don't think you even really see. I mean, I'm sure uh, women and people of color can have much worse experiences in terms of the political world. But what I'm going to say is for me, the stuff with Gamergate eclipsed any of the trolling and shit that I ever got for my usual going after right wingers.
Yep.
It's really, when people complain about Birdie Bros or any of that. Listen, jump into the world of the gaming reactionary, and you will enter a zone you didn't even know could possibly exist. That or the K Hive. But
Oh God. Oh, another unhinged group. But yeah,
yeah,
I'm sorry you dealt with that.
to be fair, the K Hive is just unhinged. Like they just are in quite frankly insane. I don't feel like there is any sort of real threat though that comes from them. It's just like they are ridiculous on the internet, but nothing ever feels like it comes off the screen. Whereas
Yeah.
these gaming reactionaries have no problem taking it into the real world while still being anonymous themselves because, you know, that's brave of them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. That's weird group, but yeah, that's not been fun.
Yeah. Did not expect this stream to go this way. We're all of a sudden talking about uh, the gaming industry being being, being destroyed by Donald Trump in a single night, apparently. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think when it comes down to it, I don't think anything's gonna really happen. I think they're gonna reverse shit and realize that this was a stupid fucking thing that they didn't even know they were falling into.
Yep. Yep. I think you're right. Um, yeah, time will tell, but I think it's just to pressure them to sell off a portion to Microsoft.
Every one of these companies is gonna sell off to sell to Microsoft.
I think it really just seems like it's ticked. I don't know what this is going to look like, but like,
Well, he's clearly just obsessed with TikTok, and I guess he's going after WeChat too because Facebook. I
mhm.
don't think they had any clue that they were going to be affecting these video game companies. But if you're saying that you cannot have any financial ties with Tencent and ByteDance, then you are also just even if you're not purposely going after them, you are also including these gaming companies. I mean, it's just how it works. Yeah, like you, unless he signed things like you've order that just said TikTok and WeChat specifically, but I don't think that's what he did. And I don't think you can do that, can you? I don't know if you can just say a certain company can't deal with these companies. I think you need to broadly state that U.S. based businesses cannot have any ties to a specific overseas organization. I mean, Grinder recently had to actually sell because they too were purchased by a Chinese based company and the government forced them to sell it. It just wasn't that big of a deal because it was a platform that I guess doesn't really make mainstream headlines so much. I mean, it did get some news because it was pretty insane, but it didn't get any coverage like these other companies are getting. But yes, just earlier, I think it was late last year. Don't quote me on that, but in the past few months, Grindr was forced to sell from their Chinese parent company by the U.S. government.
Wow, I had no idea.
Um,
That's interesting.
so you know, what else? What else happened? Let's talk about what else is going on in the news today. Oh, I got some more super chats.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Renee said you can roll on Mike from PA instead. uh, Midnight Pizza Man with the super chat. How do you both feel about Dave Rubin's ideas about the left hating gamers? What?
Does he think that?
I gotta find this. Did this happen? Dave Rubin, gamers.
He's had me blocked for a very long time.
Oh, there's literally a YouTube clip that comes up that says Dave Rubin.
Left hates
The
gamers.
left hates gamers. Now, I don't think you're gonna hear this on your end, Jordan.
I can listen on my side.
Okay, let me. I'll send you the. I'll in Skype. I'll send you the link. All right, but I'm gonna play this for the live stream listeners now. Let's take a listen here. Let me pull up the system audio. Let me share the screen. Give us one moment here, ladies and gentlemen. This just takes a second. All right, here we go.
But that you have to accomplish something in a video game. You have to keep trying to succeed. Yes, can you go to GameFAQs or can you get the cheat code and all that stuff? You do, but it really is about you figuring out how to do all this stuff. And that to me sort of shows why the media, and especially the leftist media, hates games now or hates gamers. They don't like people who solve problems. Is this a bridge too far, or am I onto something?
I don't know. I haven't really thought. I have to think about it. I haven't really thought about it.
I think there's something there. Gamers
Sure.
want to get shit done. Whatever world you're in, whether you're playing a sports game or an adventure game or an RPG or whatever, you're building something, you're accomplishing something. You may have to have teammates and all do it. You don't want people to help you do everything and cheat for you. That's not what the left likes.
Sure.
So they have to not like games. I think there's something really there. But that you have to.
Okay. Well, Dave Rubin's an idiot. We all know that. But as a leftist, Jordan, do you hate games, Mr. Twitch streamer?
Oh my god, that's so funny because I think like some of my favorite games are the more challenging ones. The ones where you really like I mean, I've been playing Doom Eternal on a pretty hard difficulty and have just been, stuck at this one point where it's excruciating level where it's basically you have to kind of maneuver around a bunch of different enemies of varying levels of severity at the same time, and it's oh god, it's infuriating, but like that challenge is really fun. So I think this premise that like the left hates games because of problem solving is just like really weird and out of left field. He's got like lazy, like sweeping takes, it seems.
Right.
I mean, you could apply that to just a lazy person in general, people who like to like just avoid problems in general.
Yeah, he's
not
just
a
just very not very bright. Michael Brooks loved dunking on Dave Rubin. It was probably his favorite hobby, to be quite frank. Rubin is just a weird guy. And, I agree with him though that the left hates gamers because I'm really thinking about it, and there was that really famous leftist who recently came out and just shit all over gamers. What's his name again? Oh right, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, right. Yeah, he famous leftist Joe Rogan. No, but if you think about it, and this really has always really shown what this is all about. Going back to Gamergate now. When Gamergate was happening, the right-wing grifters who latched onto it to use these young gamer reactionaries to their advantage and build a brand off of them, they openly would come out and talk about how stupid gaming is and how they thought these guys were all nerds, but they just stood with their right to have their big boobied video games and all this other bullshit that these gamergators thought they were fighting for or whatever. Like, Milo Yiannopoulos would openly shit on gaming. Like, he would literally think it was the stupidest thing ever. Mike Cernovich, same thing, thought they were geeks and nerds. Yet, apparently the right loves video games. I mean, what well-known right-wing personality do you know? Do you automatically think of and connect to, like, gaming? I can't think of anyone. Does Ben Shapiro play video games? Does what's his face Prager play video games? What I mean, does Steve Crowder play games? If they do, they certainly don't talk about it or really, the people who do play video games that I can think of that skew right. What, like the literal like white supremacist gamer gears? That's all I can think of. Like the guys who got banned from like YouTube and shit for literally having streams where they were gaming and would like recite the 14 words or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't know who Dave Rubin is possibly referring to on the right that is. But I guess there are some leftists who hate gamers. Moi, for example.
Ooh, yikes! Hostile territory.
Right now.
Yeah, it's not really a sound argument.
So let's go to another super chat here. Renee says that apparently Dave Rubin has a take on the book 1984 as well that needs to be listened to. We'll have to say that for another day. I got my Dave Rubin fill. Too many high level ideas that I'm still trying to work out over here.
Yeah, your brain's recovering mode.
Yes, thank you. I could not remember what it was that he said.
What a weirdo.
It's what did he do to trick the Young Turks? That's always been my wonder. That's always been what I would question.
Dave Rubin?
Yeah, like he was on the Young Turks and like Young Turks are great, I think, but like what did Dave Rubin do to like this? No one turns into Dave Rubin. He was always that person.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to be like a YouTube guy, and whatever it took, whatever community he could ingratiate himself among, like that's what he was going to do. And just, yeah, he probably just felt like he wasn't really, I don't know, making it out of Young Turks like at the star level he wanted. So he just grifted right. He probably saw, I think a lot of people saw an opportunity once the kind of like campus free speech bullshit started to bubble up. People are like, oh yeah, this is going to be my thing. And then that like lets them discriminate under the guise of like free thought.
Right. I mean, there's people who you look at and you'd be honestly shocked if they all of a sudden switched. Like, for example, if you came out in a couple months and were promoting Donald Trump, I would be shocked because you seem like someone who is, it's not just it's not a grift for you. It's not a money-making play. This is what you believe, and that's what you fight for. I'm letting you know right now that if there was a money-making play for me on the right, I would immediately jump over there.
No, don't do it. It's not more important things than money. Don't do it.
But it's, like someone like Dave Rubin, like, for me, yeah. Like no one becomes that. Like no one like listen, if some like 18-year-old streamer was a progressive and all of a sudden a couple of years down the road they're all of a sudden a right winger, you could say, okay, maybe they were young and didn't. Dave Rubin's a grown man and I don't even know how old he is, 30s, 40s, whatever he is. Certainly he was that age when he was with Young Turks, I'm assuming. Like this guy had to have known this was all just a play for him. Like he just completely like I guess he pretends that he was a classical liberal and that's what he thought the Young Turks were, and then he went there and realized they weren't that. Which, I mean, if you believe that, I guess you're as dumb as Dave Rubin, so maybe.
I just like that's a window and an opportunity for people like him, and they cut out a nice little slice of the pie for themselves, and that's it.
Yeah.
Selfish.
Yeah. Zoe in the chat says, "This is quite. I gotta read this because it's funny. You know how when you come, you need to wait a bit before you do it again. That's how Dave's brain processes high level ideas."
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
I
maybe,
mean he's
well,
gotta
maybe,
let
well,
it
well,
let it
maybe,
recover.
well, maybe all you need to wait before you can do it again.
Oh shit. Oh god.
The opening was there, and I had to take it. That's the type of person I
Yeah.
am. Yeah. Let's go to some more chats. Um, Winter Snow says people wonder why my username is Winter Snow. Gamergate did that. Try and Google Winter Snow. Ha ha ha. What? Honestly, I read that because it piqued my interest, and I have no idea what this person is talking about. So now I have to Google Winter Snow. I don't see anything coming up, but I'll have to look further into that later on. KCDE, too many people on unemployment playing video games. Time to go back to work or join the military. Right. Uh, a lot of super chats today. Not a lot of chats in general. I'm just trying to. James says we need a new version of the estate tax, except it's coasting on your last name instead of just wealth. Oh, that was in reference to Kennedy. I'd be all for that.
Yeah, that whole family is just it'd be nice if they just left politics. Families like that who've been in it for a while and have nothing new to offer, just it'd be great if they went away.
Yes. I mean, you could always, if Joe Kennedy doesn't float your boat, you could always go with the anti-vaxxer Kennedy, you know?
Oh my god.
Honestly,
Oh.
at least an election with him would be fun.
Yeah. It's just horrifying. Just so many people are just going to refuse to get the coronavirus vaccine, and that's just scary.
Right.
It's very scary.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. We are going to see, it's people who think that the world is going to suddenly get better in November if Joe Biden wins. Better strap in and get ready for this because, I honestly think it'll be better in terms of Trump will be gone and they won't be in power in government, but Trump's base may very well go further off the deep end and become even more of a problem, to be honest.
Yeah.
I forgot who I was talking to. I think Kyle, who's the tech guy over at the Majority Report. When I was talking with him yesterday, he brought up an interesting point. I mean, it's something I've thought of, but he worded it in a way that I didn't think of, quite frankly. And that was, remember how the Tea Party was in 2010? Imagine the Tea Party of 2010, but replace the T with QAnon. I mean, it could very well happen. I mean, it's almost... I would be shocked if it didn't. And that scenario, honestly, should freak everybody out.
It's horrifying. Yeah. Matthew Gault at Vice wrote an interesting piece this week about how the military's counterterrorism center is treating this like a national security threat. And not that I'm like, just, acting in deference to the military, but like I do think that is like interesting that because of its adherence and because of how fast that's growing, that the military is now being like, oh shit, this is dangerous. It's horrifying to think about.
Right. I mean, on top of that, you hear how different white supremacists movements and organizations are seeping into law enforcement. There's going to be it's going to be bad. It's going to get bad. Anyone who thinks that Trump being gone will make things wonderful again is, I mean, what I am hoping for is that the people who only care about Trump being gone and voted accordingly tune out once Trump is gone, and then I think the left will be in a better shape electorally than they are in certain races. I mean, that's how I look at it. I don't know if you want to talk about the 2020 election and your take, any take you have on Biden and Trump. But I've argued that the left has extracted whatever they could have out of the Trump winning 2016 scenario that ended up happening, and that it's time to move on from that, because we are now, after extracting all that, we are now just being rolled by the blue wave of Democratic voters who just care about getting Trump out of office. So they just vote for establishment Democrats who they think can actually do that. The blue wave wasn't helpful to the left. It really was an establishment Democrat movement. And so that's why I think whatever gets Trump out of office, I mean, for me personally, it's more than just that, but that's my argument to leftists who don't see any difference between Trump and Biden presidency, and only care about the left gaining more power. That's my argument to them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one outcome would be if Biden wins, if this groundswell of support comes and he does win, these are the same types of people who are going to like hit the ground in January to start to enact his agenda. They're going to sit back. So that's an inroad for progressives. And whether or not Biden will be receptive to that remains to be seen. But I mean, you got to at least try. I think it's worth trying, worth trying to see how far we can push policies left, and then lay the foundation for another midterm win in 2022. Right. So we'll see. It's just, scary. This the future is very scary. A lot of uncertainty is like stressing people out. I get that. But
right. I mean, we're
getting them in and then outworking the moderates is key.
I mean, we're not even currently talking about the really the background to everything in life now is this pandemic. I mean, there's no future right now where I'm looking at where we're out of this. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, eventually we will get out of this pandemic because, it seems like we have the technology and the capabilities to eventually do that. I mean, we've done more with less in previous pandemics many years ago, but in terms of when that happens, I mean, there are people who thought we'd be done in a month or two. There are people who thought we'd be done in 6 months. There are people who thought the summer would come and everything would be better. There are people who thought the summer would be ending and everything would be better. There are people who think the fall is going to make everything better. I mean, I don't see a scenario where we are free from the coronavirus. I actually don't see that scenario in my immediate forecasting, to be quite frank. In terms of speculation, I don't even speculate beyond a year from I don't even know, I guess June of 2021. That's really as far as I've considered in terms of like how far my brain looks into the future right now.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just like I had a conversation with my mom today because like my grandma is now like on the anti-vax train. My dad thinks it's not going to be safe and all this shit, won't take it. And it's like, had a conversation with my mom today. It's like, do you think there's a possibility where like half our family is dead coming out of this? And it's just like, we're just getting started on this. And like the way people are going to react to even the rollout of the vaccine is horrifying. It's just a lot to take in.
Yeah. I mean, literally from every single direction. It's like a multi-prong. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just, we're dealing with conspiracy theorists, but not just a conspiracy theorist type. We're literally dealing with like 20 different types of conspiracy theorists. And you have the anti-vaxxers, the QAnon people, your normal run-of-the-mill Trump supporter. On top of that, QAnon branches out into all slew of different conspiracies too. You have the people who are obsessed basically with the pandemic. You have people who are obsessed with child trafficking, which is very real, but their version of it, where it's a big democratic plot, does not exist. I mean, they are. It's crazy, man.
So scary. And it's now that it's like moving to different platforms because it's moved away from 4chan. It's like people are kind of cherry picking all of these different things and forming one kind of like mega conspiracy where it's like the the virus has something to do with it and that's part of the cover up. And it's just like, oh no, come on. Like the thing is, it's like you would make, I don't know, they would make a lot more sense to me if it was just like Epstein, everything involved with Epstein. Like, yeah, that's fucked up. And just like follow that instead of like trying to complicate things with like symbols and like pizza shop logos and shit. It's just like you're missing the plot. It's right here in front of you, and everyone he had access to is where you should start to look. And people just, I don't know, because I mean it's like likely just to deceive and probably, I don't know. I'd be very curious to see who started QAnon, if we ever learn and what their motive was, because it's just like it's, oh yeah,
or they who
true.
what people started. Yeah, I don't think it's. I'd be surprised if it was one person. I know there's been speculation as to who it is. I don't know if anything ever came of it. Well, I mean, I know nothing ever came of it. What I meant is I don't know if there's anyone still doing research based on that stuff. Figure out who Q was or is. But it's interesting you brought up Epstein, because I actually meant to bring this up on the Majority Report earlier today as a story to talk about, because I've really been like diving into this, because even the Epstein stuff isn't straightforward for them, man. Have you been paying attention to this Tom Hanks thing?
I remember the Tom Hanks stuff from like last year, but I don't know if there's anything new.
Right,
like
so,
the Cappy stuff.
So there's like multiple Tom Hanks conspiracies, because apparently Tom Hanks is just full of full of drama. I mean, the least problematic Hollywood star I can think of is Tom Hanks. And there's of course the idea that he was executed. Have you heard of this one, where apparently Tom Hanks was executed and this is a fake Tom Hanks they have out there now, but he was secretly executed for his crimes against, I forgot exactly what crimes he was executed for. I believe it was it could be
trafficking,
maybe. I think that was it, because there is a belief that Tom Hanks is a child trafficker among these QAnon types, and it part of their proof is that he posts Instagram photos. He likes to find things, like if he finds a single pair of gloves on the floor, he'll take a picture of it and make like a witty remark about, I wonder what happened to the other pair of gloves. And he does this for anything that he comes across that like comes in pairs, but he finds one of, like if he finds like a sneaker or whatever, that apparently is code to them, that is for child trafficking of some sort. But this is the crazy thing. I've seen this, and I've come across this recently doing research for different conspiracies for this show. There is a belief that Tom Hanks is connected to Jeffrey Epstein, because, and each one of them will say this, because he's on the Epstein flight logs. Now, obviously, there are a lot of people on Epstein's flight logs, and you can look at them because they've been released, and it'd certainly be a problem. Just like Trump has been on those logs, Clinton's on those logs, a number of different celebrities on those logs, and you can certainly question, what did this celebrity do on Epstein's private island, knowing what we know now? Tom Hanks not on those flight logs. Yet they each will, whenever I come across this Tom Hanks conspiracy, they are adamant that he is on the flight logs. He is not. They're like, even in this conspiracy world where the flight logs are a legitimate document to them that they use, there is a fake version of these flight logs going around, and or the people who believe this Tom Hanks thing heard it from someone else who believes he's on it and just never actually checked the flight logs themselves. That Tom Hanks is on these flight logs. He is not. It's just like ridiculous. It's incredible. And there's no, like, I've talked about this. I don't even know if how many times I've talked about this on air anymore or in private conversation. But a lot of times on this show, when I'm talking about white supremacist movements and I go into episodes where we talk about different algorithm rabbit holes, the YouTube rabbit hole, I talk about how it's important to differentiate the true believers, the real deal white supremacists, from young, impressionable people who fall down these rabbit holes and get turned into white supremacists, where all they need is to be pushed in the right direction and they'll get out of this. They're not lost causes. QAnon is different. These people are older, tend to be older. They are set in their ways. They have fallen so deep there's no coming out of this. They are in a cult. They are. It's quite frankly a cult. It's not even like there is more you can do to save some young white skinheads you see causing trouble due to some video they saw on YouTube. There's more you can do for them than you can for the QAnon people. There is an entire generation of people who are lost forever, and they will go to their grave thinking that Donald Trump was secretly trying to take down a global pedophile ring run by Satanists, Democrats, and Hollywood, and there's no telling them otherwise. And these same people go out there and brag how they've lost contact with their kids or their parents or whatever family members because of these conspiracy theories. And it's not and there's no introspection. It's not, look what I've done, I should really look at what I'm doing. No, it's when I turn out to be right, I'll be able to say, ha ha ha, I was right all along, who's laughing now? Like, to their own kids. Like, that, it's that demented. It's really sad.
It's very sad. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like it's right in front of you if you are worried. And like you said, I agree. It's obviously human trafficking is a problem, but it's like it exists more in like labor like trades all over the world. It exists in many other different capacities. It's not in like just like Hillary Clinton's basement or whatever. So in the partisan angle just is extremely troubling. People overcomplicate it. Just like focus on the Epstein stuff and go from there. But yeah, it sucks because it pulls people in on the emotional appeal, because that's a problem like we would all agree is bad. You don't want human trafficking. You don't want any of that stuff. And then it like hooks in all the other, like the partisan angle, and then the hatred of Hillary and all this other kind of stuff. And it's just like it's gone from there. So it's very sad. And I don't know where it goes. I don't know where it goes from here because the platforms aren't doing anything about it. It's a mess. And like I said, the military is now treating it like a national security threat.
Right. Ryan on the live stream chat says, the latest episode of QAnon Anonymous, I want to just interject, great podcast.
Love those guys.
The latest episode of QAnon Anonymous was terrifying. They went to a Q rally in, I think, LA, and said the crowd was much more diverse and younger than what they've seen before. I'm glad you said that, Ryan, because that's a great point. And it is a new phenomena that is tied in with the coronavirus stuff. I think that more so than anything else is bringing young people to QAnon, because the Trump stuff was really for the boomers, so that tie-in. But you have so many, like, you see there's that whole anti-vaxxer influencer set that's big on Instagram, all of a sudden tweeting out, like, Q-curious content. I should say posting on Instagram Q-curious content. To me, everything is tweeting. It's amazing. I always say tweeting for everything. But it's really... I'm glad you brought that up, because it is something that I think is just recently, in the past couple of months, is starting to spread due to the coronavirus. I don't know what's wrong with people. It's sad. I don't know what else to... I mean, it's easy to laugh at them, and sometimes you just have to, because there's legitimately ridiculous and funny things, and you just have to keep yourself from going insane. But the best way to just describe it in general, actually, is really just sad. It's just sad. Yeah. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was great.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
What is the what episode? The most recent episode of the Insurgents. What do you guys talk about on there?
So we had John Idarola of TYT on, and he came on. We talked about just how unprepared we are for the eviction crisis. We talked about how just lack of response from Congress in terms of stimulus or a moratorium on evictions is going to create a horrific scenario where millions of people are forced out of their homes. One, with nowhere to go. Two, in the middle of a pandemic where they could get sick and die. So not exactly the lightest topic, but something that we need to start thinking about, because it's right around the corner if nothing happens.
Right. I'm gonna go check that episode out, because I have not yet listened to it. Everyone should go check it out. And let's leave with this because this has caused some controversy today. It's a statement I made on the majority report. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Jordan. So a caller called into the show earlier today, and they asked me and the rest of the MR crew. Basically, the gist was it was specific about climate issues, but the gist was like what needs to happen for things to be looked at seriously and actual action be taken to reverse or stop the damage that is being wrought on our planet that will leave us with an unlivable, really an unlivable world. And I said quite frankly and upfront that there really is nothing to do except that obviously all the action and everyone doing the work needs to keep doing that because that is honestly, I think, really good at keeping the climate crisis at bay. But again, it's just pushing back the inevitable. The real radical action needs to be taken, and I really do think, and I'm sorry to the older members of this audience and anyone above the age of 55 who listen to this show or come across this, the boomers need to say peace. It's just the truth. We have a generation who holds on to these power structures in office, and again, this isn't all boomers. But the boomers who are in power are really ruining the world for everybody. And there are no signs they want to relinquish that power. There's no signs they're going to change. So all we can really do is wait and watch them go. And then we could start really taking that radical action, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no real collectivism in the United States, sadly. And the people who go into government very rarely prioritize public service and the public good. It's all self-aggrandizement, worrying about their legacy and stuff like that, and just that infects our politics. So sadly, we have a very self-centered society.
You're being very careful to not bring up the word boomer. I appreciate that. Yeah. Let me tell you right now, the live chat right now is people imagining what I am saying because I'm now like the Adolf Hitler of boomers. Apparently, someone is imagining me saying "kill all boomers," boomer side today, boomer side tomorrow, boomer side forever.
Oh no!
I did make a comment on the show where I was like, earlier today, where I was like, and I don't mean this against boomers, obviously. And I mentioned how, my dad is a boomer. I love my dad. But sorry, Pops, you got to take one for the team.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I mean, again, there's a lot of good boomers out there. It's not just strictly a generational thing. But it is undeniable that the people in power who are causing the issues, 99% of them are boomers.
Yeah. You
could ignore it, Jordan.
I'm just treading lightly.
All right. As someone said, Sam Cedar's the only good boomer, but he doesn't consider himself to be a boomer. I think he thinks he's really late Gen X, really late Gen X. Jordan, always a pleasure when you join me. Gotta have you on more, man. I think this is only the second time you've been on, and the show's been around for we're approaching 3 years. That's not once every year and a half. We gotta get you on more.
Happy to come on whenever.
And next time you gotta bring Rob.
Yes, absolutely.
I gotta have the whole Insurgents crew on here, the entire duo, the team.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, unfortunately he was out of town tonight, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, avoiding the boomer conversation, really. It was just out of town.
Right. It was safe.
All right, Jordan. Have a good night, my man. Take care.
Thanks, Matt. See ya.
All right, folks. That's today's show. Hope you all enjoyed my background, the Mario Brothers thing. is the boomer thing really that, like, obviously I'm joking about the whole the gist of it. I mean, obviously there's a point about there is a specific generation that holds power in this country that uh, is really those people who are in power from that generation are the cause of pretty much the majority of the problems. But I'm not actually advocating for boomers to be taken out, nor do I think the entire boomer generation is at fault. Um, before before I become Slobby Mommy says Barack Obama. Oh yeah. Is Barack Obama a boomer? No, he's Gen X, isn't he? Alex says boomers must reenact the cliff scene from Midsommar. Oof. Oof. Uh Listen, I love boomers. I love my pops. It's all in good fun. Someone's got to make the someone's got to make the edgy jokes. All right? KCD says, I saw a tweet that the boomer generation holds 65 trillion in wealth. Yeah, man. Like, I mean, Zoe says, it's fun to joke around, but obviously I don't want my grandparents to die. Well, I mean, it's crazy to me that your grandparents are boomers. My grandma was like, she was in her 20s and 30s during World War II, I believe. So, yeah. But yeah, please. In a perfect scenario, the boomers in power just lose their power, and boomers join the more progressive and leftist younger generations in creating the utopia. I mean, really, please. Winter Snow says, boomers and their fake hippie revolution, they thought they did their due diligence by ending the draft. Renee says, silent generation. Yeah, I believe my grandma was silent generation. Yeah. I believe both my grandmas were. Or is it greatest generation? I don't know. No, my dad's a boomer, though, Renee. She always likes to bring it up, too. My dad makes more jokes about him being a boomer than anyone I know who makes boomer jokes, to be quite honest. My dad's a cool boomer. Oh, see, Chad says boomers are the silent majority and you're scared of them. Well. Muscala says, all kidding aside, some boomers might be good, but generally speaking, they are ruining our society. Listen, I know there's a lot of people who are against the generational wars and feel like it's just like drummed up to create some sort of artificial infighting between people. And sure, yeah, most boomers don't, are not those people who are in power. But yes, there is a very realistic truth where there is a large percentage of the boomers who have a pretty healthy upper middle class lifestyle, who have lived what the basic American dream that once existed, apparently, for some sections of our society. They have that. And they're among the people who vote to make sure that younger generations don't get to also share in that, to be quite honest. And again, it's not all boomers, but I'm literally just going by what we see when we get these exit polls and when we see how demographics vote. I'm sorry to the hippie and leftist boomers and the boomers who believe in communal society and a better world. I'm sorry, guys, but your classmates and your fellow generation, not all of them, share that with you. And I'm glad you're with us, to be honest. And yeah, I'm not talking about you. Please, never think I'm talking about you. Moose Gal says, Matt, how old are you? I'm 33. Shadrick says, the only thing I know is they call boomers the me generation for a reason. Winter Snow says, my dad went Republican to Bernie, bro. He's the coolest boomer ever. Yeah, man. I'm all for bring the boomers to our side. I love it. I'll stand with a boomer. What is that, like that Lord of the Rings meme? Where it's like, would you stand next to a boomer? And it's like, no, but I would stand next to a comrade. That's what I would make for that meme. That'd be my Lord of the Rings meme. Moko says, pretty sure the eBay seller that won't send my package is a boomer. OC says, just got back from visiting my boomer Syrian dad, and he told me Trump is his hero because he made all of that money. I had to explain to him that Trump's a trust fund baby and like all the Syrian princes he hates. Yeah, boomers are born after World War II. Yeah, I know my grandparents aren't boomers. I don't know if she's silent generation or greatest generation, though. I think silent. Silent is the early 1900s, right? And then greatest is that time in between boomers and those early 1900s. Yeah, my grandma was born in like 1915. Crazy. She almost got to be 100. Oh, I have it backwards. Okay, it goes lost generation, greatest generation, then silent generation. So my grandma, I think, was greatest generation. So it's lost generation, greatest generation, silent generation, baby boomers, Gen X, millennial, Gen Z, and Generation Alpha, because the alpha males are back. Right. Is that what they're calling these young? Is that what my kids are? Generation Alpha? I hope not. I don't want them to be in a generation with such a lame name. Lost generation born between World War I and World War II. Wait, what? So that can't be... I don't even know. Winter Snow says, my generation, born early 80s, was also as complacent as fuck. So there's that. We were like the science generation. Haha. Oh, Gen X also sucks. The only difference is Gen X doesn't hold any power, really. There's a few Congress people, and there's a few, But Gen X, really, I mean, you guys, people always forget about you guys because you really, like you said, you did nothing of note. Oh, you're the generation who were the young studs who got into the internet startup world early. You're the Jack Dorseys and your Mark Zuckerbergs and all those other rich tech guys. That's your generation. That's Gen X. So there's a few people in Gen X who made bank. Nancy says maybe the young generation should be the COVID kids. Ooh. MW, the doomed generation. I like that. That just a little bit biased, but I like that. MW continues, millennials should be called lost generation, to be honest. So he says 2015 is greatest generation. KCD says, my grandma was born on D-Day and my grandpa was in Germany killing Nazis. I need to find out more about what my grandpa was doing during World War II, but he was also overseas fighting. He got a Purple Heart. I don't know more details. I need to talk to my dad about it, actually. I don't know why I haven't already. It's also where he met my grandma. And, if I'm going to say something that's going to mean some more trouble. If it wasn't for Adolf Hitler, I wouldn't be here today. Oh, no. Obviously, I'm joking. Boy. Salami says, yeah, Doom Generation is good, LOL. Shadrick says, I like to think of Gen Xers as the fake tough guy generation. Yeah, that's like the early MTV generation, all like the live MTV stuff. Uh, Grim says humanity will not survive the century. Renee says that makes Matt equal Israel. Ryan says Matt would not kill the baby Hitler because it would erase him from the timeline. Yeah, my grandma was born, raised in England, and she, I was young when she passed away, but not too young. I was like in 6th grade, and when she had a full-blown English accent, and I didn't know till later that, much later, when my dad told me the summary of the story of how, his dad met my grandma while he was over. His dad met his mom while he was overseas for World War II, and he met her in England. And the rest is history, apparently. But I need to unpack the rest is history part for myself, so I know a little bit more. Luna says, don't kill baby Hitler, just kidnap. Right. Brainwash baby. Let baby Hitler flourish as an artist and get into that art school that college-aged Hitler wanted to get into, and then everything will be okay. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I had a lot of fun. I think Jordan's a great guest. You guys queued up some great conversations. And Grim says generations are a marketing concept. Fuck it. Yeah, but it also does work for how the economy was for certain people during different times and how they benefited from it, really. Honestly, all right, folks. See you all next time. Renee says Cockney Punk Matt. Right. All right. See you all next time on Doomed.